Good morning and or afternoon. Insert your own time zone there. And I am Jeff Corintier from Arcanum Holistic Clinic. You may have tuned into some of my previous live streams and or with my partner Allison. Or she does some solo on her own as well. But today is I am here, as you can see, but we're going to be introducing Danielle Peterson to you. She's actually recently joined us at the clinic, and she'll be doing general treatments, but she's actually bringing her specialty and her enthusiasm for natural fertility. So that's actually exactly what we're going to talk about today. And actually, Danielle, why don't you take a moment and just say hello, introduce a bit of yourself. How did you come to Heilkunst or fertility, or what's kind of a good introduction of yourself?
Sure, I'd love to. Thank you, Jeff, and hi, everyone. I'm so happy to be here talking about my favorite subject, fertility, yay, and birth. And I'm excited to be joining Arcanum Clinic and bringing my expertise to your clients, new and old. I started studying Heilkunst a little over a decade ago, and I started focusing on women specifically during conception, pregnancy, birth, early motherhood when I went through my own journey into motherhood. And this was a really potent time for me, actually, surprisingly, because despite having done many years of schooling, it was a real reclamation journey for me, because I really had to unlearn all of the conditioning that I didn't even realize that I had. Because when you get a label slapped on you or a diagnosis slapped on you, or when your little one is sick, it just feels like there is so much at stake. And for me, there were so many moments where I, despite everything that I knew to be true, wanted to give my personal power and responsibility over to the perceived medical authorities, the professionals. But all of the decisions that they would make on my behalf are inherently a betrayal of my value system. And so to me, it became really clear that this time in a woman's life is catalyzing, and it's potent, and it's powerful, and it's initiatory. And if we could support women during this phase of their life, conception, pregnancy, early motherhood, birth especially, then the whole world would change. The whole system would change if women could birth in their power, in control, and really start the journey of sovereignty and personal power. And so this was a really hard journey for me. And so to now be on the end where I'm able to support women during this phase, it's a real privilege. And I'm excited to be able to continue this work of building the more beautiful world we all know is possible. And so with that, here we are.
Yeah, no, thank you. That's awesome. And actually, I like how you said all that in the sense of we will talk a little bit technically about some things about fertility today and in our future presentations. But what you said really right now is so important, is that it's not fundamentally a technical discussion, but we're really you're getting into a very different medical paradigm, or I would even say a medical consciousness, right? So this is essentially what you're pointing to, is like, you had to change your mind, your consciousness, to really understand what was really valuable to you, what's really in your own medical awareness and consciousness, and all these your values as how you do things. And so anyways, I'm just I don't want to wax on about that, but I think that's such a critical point, that we are dealing with big level paradigms here, and not just a bunch of technical information.
Yeah, and I find this moment is really a moment that women start to really take control for themselves, because it involves their family, it involves their babies, and so they start to question the dominant narrative and see what else is out there. And it's also an opportunity to really get to know ourselves, because so often our whole life we're just brought to the doctors and they tell us, you have this diagnosis, you have this, and there isn't ever a system or an opportunity in that paradigm where you really start to get to know yourself and question, well, why are these adaptations even here? Why am I infertile right now? I'm not broken. There's no such thing as being broken, but our body will make changes, however crudely, to that are in our best interest. And so it's really a time to get curious and get to know your body and develop a relationship with your body, with your vagina, with your yoni. That is, so mysterious.
Yeah.
And we ignore it for our whole life. And suddenly we're asking so much of it. We're asking her to birth a baby. And so really what I do with all my clients at the very beginning is just like, let's develop a relationship with your body and come home to yourself.
Yeah. Yeah, and you're, yeah, very much so. Like, yeah, we're not a bunch of parts. Like, oh, yeah, time to turn on the vagina to make a baby now or something. But that's
Yeah.
obviously an exaggeration. But yeah, you're touching on a similar big point, that it's almost a misnomer to talk about fertility health, and we do, of course. We
Yeah.
just talk in everyday English like a normal person does. But yeah, really, fertility health is just one facet of entire health, or whole body and mind health. Like, you don't
Mm-hmm.
have healthy fertility but unhealthy something else in you, right? It's like either you are healthy and all your parts and functions and systems show it, or they don't. So anyways, that's just a little shortcut of thinking for anyone following along. Is, yeah, you'll hear us say the words fertility health and so on, but yeah, you should always correct us in your own minds that, oh yeah, they mean total person health, who,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, is also going to have fertility because of that. Yeah.
Yeah, and these are the same tools that we're going to be talking about over this series that you're going to apply to yourself for your overall health, as you're saying, but then also for the health of your family and your children, and the whole cycle of your life that you're going to be using. And so these techniques and these tools and these skills really can be applied across all spectrums, not just fertility.
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah. So let me bring up our little pretty pictures here. Where's I always have to find the button. Excuse me. There it is. Yeah. So this, if you're watching, you likely actually already have downloaded our book, "The 8 Steps to Natural Fertility Your Doctor Doesn't Know About." If you still need it, you don't have it yet, you always go to this website, www.naturalfertilitybook.com. It's a free download, and share that with your friends, with your neighbors, with whoever looks like they're trying to have a baby. And oh yeah, the other thing too, just before we get into the core content. So yeah, we have that book, and the other free thing we have that goes with the book. Let me just click the right button here. Here we are. Yeah, we've kind of included with the book this fertility scorecard, and the idea of it is that you can use it as many times as you want, as often as you want, and in conjunction with the book, like each chapter in the book, or one of these 8 steps, corresponds to one of the 8 sections on the fertility scorecard. And the idea of it is to keep things concrete and practical, and keep yourself on track, and get a kind of an objective feedback of where are you at in the process, based on the principles and ideas we have in the book. So yeah, the book is at, as I said, naturalfertilitybook.com, or the scorecard is here at our website, arcanum.ca/fertility score. So just wanted to put that out. I'll put it up again at the end, so you don't have to frantically write things down right now.
Yeah, and I just wanted to say what I love about this book too is, unlike, the classic medical system that perpetuates itself by causing dependency, this book is so great because it gives you tools that you can apply yourself, and virtually we're slowly eliminating ourselves, so people get healthy, and of course you can continue treatment and go ever into deeper layers as you want, but really we're trying to give you the tools to teach yourself about health and freedom.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, good. Yeah, excellent point. Because yeah, so much of this can be done by a lot of people on their own, just by learning what to do and everything. But of course, there are certain kind of health challenges or blockages, whatever we want to call them, where yeah, you can certainly use our help and kind of get through those more quickly and easily. But yeah, by and large, we've laid this out to be kind of a self treatment program, if to the degree that anyone can do that.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, well, let me, oh yeah, here's my little clicker. Yeah, so as we said, we're going to do the whole series, all 8 chapters. So of course, today is the first, so that's chapter 1. And the real topic of chapter 1 is on the acid alkaline balance of the body, right? Of course, that's another general health topic, but we're going to talk a little bit about what that has to do with fertility specifically. So yeah, let's jump right in. So yeah, Danielle, I'll kind of let you kind of talk us through content. I'll kind of add in my own my own points on top of yours, or a kind of dialogue with you. But yeah, I think it makes sense for you to kind of lead the content at this point.
Yeah, sure. So I guess we'll start at a really basic level. So what is pH? It's referencing how acidic or alkaline your body is. And different parts of our body have different pH levels. So, of course, if you think of your stomach acid when you're eating, you want that to be very acidic to help digest your food. So, it's completely normal for different parts of our body to have different levels of pH and alkalinity. And so, treatment for pH involves many different areas that we're going to be covering in later chapters of the book, but it's really sensitive and can be affected by things like diet, physical activity, hydration, exposure to resonant partners, resonant sperm, things that affect our hormones, medication, stress, toxins. And so our vaginal pH in particular is very, very sensitive. And so, yeah, bringing awareness to all the things that can affect it, and then having tools to be able to measure it. And so what causes our vaginal pH to be acidic is bacteria, healthy bacteria that produces lactic acid. And it's a tightly controlled environment. And so typically within our cycle, it's at about a 4.5 pH level. And women are given these bacteria by our mother. And so it's passed on when we're birthed vaginally, especially. What does that say? Root cause treatment with dynamic medicine. Yeah. So, of course, as we're getting to the root cause of all of the elements that can affect our pH, we want to make sure that we're not just treating symptoms. We're not just seeing a nail and only, what's the saying? When all you have is a hammer, everything you see is a nail. Yeah, so when you get into the root cause treatment with some of the deeper levels of Heilkunst, we're able to really target all the things that can be affecting pH that are beyond lifestyle and habits. Because so much of our focus is on, typically, when women are trying to get pregnant, it's on lifestyle, it's on diet, it's on the physical things. But there's a whole other array of non-material elements, mental, emotional layers that can really affect our pH. And so that's where I think Heilkunst can really target the root cause of some of the shifts that could be taking place.
Yeah. Yep, very well said. Yeah. So let me go forward here. Okay. Yeah. So gets us into the food myths. So especially in terms of fertility, Danielle. So what kind of food myths are kind of critical to understand here?
I'm just giggling because there are so many myths out there and it's really confusing. So, are you supposed to be a vegan? Are you supposed to be paleo? Are you supposed to do low carb? Are you supposed to do pregnancy Pacific diets like the brewer's diet? And so there's lots of confusion out there, and understandably it can get really wearing on people who are trying to get pregnant. And yeah, so how do you navigate that? And luckily within Heilkunst, it's really grounded in a 200-year-old system of medicine about how do you eat for your body, and how do you eat dynamically, and how do you listen to what you're craving. And so specifically, we're often told, low fat is where it's at. And yet a low fat diet specifically is worst for fertility, right? So there was a couple studies actually out of Harvard, I think it was. I can reference it afterwards if you're sending out show notes or anything. But women who ate low fat dairy specifically had a 5 times increased likelihood that they would be infertile. So you want those saturated fats, you want the animal fats in there, because that is so much of how our hormones are created.
Exactly. Yeah, and through media and supposed nutrition science and everything, fats have been so demonized, not just for fertility, but people become so scared of eating fats. And of course they wrongly think, oh well, I'm going to get fat if I eat fat, but of course that's totally wrong. But you're right. This whole business of fertility health, there's that phrase again. Mm-hmm. Is so critically linked to healthy fats, animal fats. That is the hormones and like everything that's produced in terms of our metabolism and the cell functions and everything. Yeah,
Mhm.
it's so dependent on those healthy fats.
Absolutely.
Okay, well, let's take a peek at the slide on, yeah, what, so yeah, we've already touched on it, Danielle, but what are some of the general things we'd say about what pH, how it connects to fertility?
Yeah. So, uh, like I said, our vaginal pH is really sensitive. It can be affected by a lot of different factors. And so, even the timing on our ovulation or where we are in our cycle or ovulation really changes the alkalinity or the acidity of our vaginal canal. And so, just generally, signs that you might have some pH imbalances would be experience of vaginal odor or frequent vaginal infections, itchiness or burning. And so, all of these things might cue you to think, oh, I think maybe something might be off and it'd be worth investigating.
Yes.
So conception itself requires an alkaline environment. And so we want to make sure that these shifts are taking place at the proper time in our cycle so that the sperm can survive for ovulation.
Hmm. Yeah, you're right. Like that's so specific. And if I remember the phrase in our book, I think it was referred to. It's like if you're overly acidic, it's almost like you've created your own barrier method of birth control, which is not what you were intending to do. You know.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm. Oh, and the other one other thought I had too, as I said, you're so correct and specific about the vaginal pH level and how that facilitates or prevents conception. That's all true, and also at the bigger general level, what we see in somebody's pH is how their general health is doing, starting with nutrition and minerals, but even going beyond that, and that also, of course, has a bearing on fertility. So yeah, so seeing what is going on in somebody's pH is just a window from the really specific all the way up to the very general levels of health. So it's a really cool and easy thing to do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and as we'll get into, I think a little later on in the presentation, the other really unique aspect of pH is that you're able to test it yourself. So it becomes a really functional tool that you can use every day to measure how am I doing? How were those specific changes that I did yesterday
Mhm.
affecting my pH today?
Yes.
So yeah, as we mentioned, conception requires an alkaline environment during ovulation. And so the little spermies, the little seamen, they're not going to survive in an acidic environment. And so it's really important that during ovulation, the alkalinity in your vaginal canal shifts. So when our estrogen levels increase, it causes cervical mucus to come during ovulation, and this changes it to a very alkaline environment. So it moves from about a 4.5 to a 7.
Hmm.
And then this allows for safe passage for conception. And another thing I just want to touch on too is this is why timing is so important. And so often women who are trying to conceive, they have their little app and they're, oh, it's day 14 on my
Right.
cycle today. But there are so many things that can shift a woman's cycle. And so it's really important that you actually know the signs of your own body. And so you get to learn your temperature shifts and your cervical fluid shifts and your cervical tilt. And so I always recommend the fertility awareness method so that people can start developing a relationship with their cycles and to start noting the changes. And so you can really identify, oh, I'm ovulating right now, I'm alkaline right now, there's a
Mhm.
safe passage right now. And so i think
Yes.
i think the timing element is so important, and it's connected to your pH level.
Hmm. Nothing like bringing science into a romantic relationship.
Yes, very romantic.
Yeah.
Hey honey, my pH is 7.
Yeah, let's see here. Okay, so I've just moved ahead onto some of the products you use. So yeah, I will open that up.
Yeah, so if you and your partner are using any sort of synthetic lubricants. It can all affect the vaginal pH. And so you want to make sure that whatever you're using is natural, it's resonant with your body. So we often recommend coconut oil, and same things with any soaps, or I know, I'm not sure if women are still doing this, but any sort of like cleaning products or douching, sometimes I say, like, don't even do it at all. There's a self-cleaning system, right? So you want to make sure that you're using products that really support the natural ecosystem of the vagina.
Yes. And here we have in the picture, of course, is our friendly coconut, and it's coconut oil, which is a great kind of natural substitute there.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so yeah, this is what we talk about. We're turning political now. We're going to talk about kingdoms and democracies, and what the heck does that have to do with anything?
Yeah, well, I love how it was framed in the book. It made me giggle. But our bodies are organized in a hierarchical manner. So there's a monarchy. There's people at the top of the list. So our head and our heart. So these two functions together as the king and queen, and our body will do everything to make sure these two systems or organs survive.
Yes.
And so what that means is that what's the saying? You rob Peter to pay Paul. So
yeah.
if they're ever missing any sort of mineral or nutrient, they will steal it from the less noble organs to make sure they have everything they need to survive. And likewise, if higher order systems have a lot of garbage, they're going to dump it down to the bottom. And so blood is really high on this hierarchy list. Yeah. And so your body works hard to make sure it maintains a pH of, do you have it off the top? It was maybe 7.35, 7.45.
That's precisely the number. Yeah, you got it.
Okay. Under pressure. Yeah, so our systems are always working to maintain balance, and they do it in a hierarchical fashion.
Yep. Yeah, exactly. So what you said is correct. Yeah, so the body does everything it can to maintain that blood pH, and then to do so, it dumps the toxins and the acidity, down the food chain, down to the less and less important organs. So it's like, the peasants, get pooped on, so to speak, but the king and queen are kind of maintained in their dignity,
Yeah.
Oh yeah, there's your numbers right there.
Oh, great. Yeah, so when our blood shifts outside of this range, that's when we start to see more chronic inflammation occurring, when our immune system starts to get out of whack. And so that's why our body really does do almost everything to maintain the pH. And when you start to see other elements of your body start to wear down and present symptoms. And that's why you can never just take a symptom and give it a drug and try to reduce that, because that symptom is really just an expression of a whole other load of things going on. And so when you were saying pH is so important, not just for fertility, but overall health, you can see that there's this really sensitive overall ecosystem that our body is working at, and it's all connected to everything. So when something is out of balance, it's really an indication that there are other things. So we want to do targeted root cause medicine.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
Yeah, and as you said, our body makes byproducts, right? So it'll dump the acidic elements to a less noble organ. And what we see in the blood is when it shifts out of balance, it will often get dumped to the bladder or the kidneys. And so this is why the pH of our urine is especially important, because it is the so-called peasant who will get the acidic residue. Yes. And so it gives a good indication of where our whole body pH is at.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so here on this slide now, we start to get more and more practical. We're going to tell you what you do now. Here's the doing part of it. So
yeah, okay, so we want to track our pH for the first and second P of the day for about a month, because this gives a long enough chance to start seeing some of the habits that we're applying take shape and start to see a general trend. That's what you're looking for. And so the first pee of the day, well, if anyone has never used it, you have a pH stick and you can pee on it, and then it gives you a reading. It goes from 1 to 14 or 0 to 13, and then you can just compare it and measure your pH according to the color. So the first pee of your day gives you a general sense of the acidic load from the previous day. And then we also want to measure our second pee after hydrating, but before eating. And then, as it says here, the ideal range of the second pee is between 7.2 and 7.4. Yes. So you want to start to track this along with, you know, tracking your cycle, because it will just give you so much information about what's happening and what the changes you are making and how it's doing for you. So, you know, we're all individuals. There is no cookie cutter medicine. So maybe some dietary changes. You need more meat. You need less meat. You know, O blood types probably need a little more meat than A blood types, which meat can be acidic for some people. So this is where we really start to tailor a program built for you with immediate feedback.
Yeah, no, that's what I love about this, amongst other things. Yeah, it gives you immediate feedback. It's objective. It's, you know, it's like we spend so much of our life, you know, guessing and, you know, oh, I think I feel good, or I think I feel this or that or whatever. Yeah, these objective which those are valid too, by the way. You know, to have that inner sense of yourself. We give a big thumbs up to that as well. But as I say, this external kind of form of measurement is quite important as well. So yeah, I really like this. And then speaking of the color coding, that was one thought I had as well. You know, if you're not quite a morning person, you know, don't worry, the color coding is pretty easy to see those colors in the morning, and you can, you know, you don't have to take your calculator out or anything. You just see a color and you know what's going on. So. Okay, so I think we've kind of talked about some of these bigger questions and overall points, but I don't know if there's anything specific to add. I mean, I know when we get into the next chapter 2, we start getting more specific about some of the diet factors and, you know, some of the things that kind of feed back into this pH. But yeah, I don't know that there's anything to add on this slide at this moment.
Yeah, it just, you know, where to start is just to start. This process can be quite overwhelming because, as we touched on earlier, there's so much at stake. You know, you really care about the outcome of what's going to happen, of conception. And so I think small steps like this that really everyone can apply are really important to do. And just to start knowing that any diagnosis or label or idea about the self that you can't get pregnant is just that. It's an idea, because everyone can heal, everyone can begin the path to cure, and it doesn't involve major overhauls. It involves just little steps that we can take.
Yes. Oh yeah, and we did touch on this as well. Like, it's not just food that can cause acidity in our system, but emotions and stress and all the rest. And yeah, and as it says on the slide, you know, that, and we'll talk about that more in future chapters. But yeah, we do have that whole range of homeopathic support as far as, you know, removing stress from the cellular memory and kind of, you know, helping support and shift the state of mind and things like that. So yeah, there's a whole world that we'll get more into as we go down the chapters.
And this process is like a double-edged sword, because despite working towards gaining health and wellness for fertility, the process itself is often stressful. And so when I'm working with women, often, you know, if I get them to rate their stress level 1 to 5, they're at a 5 out of 5. And so, like I said, it's the little things that you can do, the little support systems homeopathically, that can really start to just lap away at the stress. And so that you can really start to enjoy the process, because, like, it's an opportunity. It's an opportunity to know yourself, to become yourself, to express yourself. And it can be really exciting to watch women come alive because of this moment and this journey of fertility.
Yes. Now, yeah, we're pretty much at the point where we can call it a wrap for today. We can stay on for a little bit if you want to ask any questions. If you're on Facebook or YouTube, you just type a comment as you normally do, and we will be able to address that directly. Or otherwise, if you're watching this as a replay later, you can email us, and we'll incorporate questions and topics that you put forward into our into our series as we go forward. But yeah, that's just to kind of wrap up a little bit of the some of what I said at the beginning, as far as, yeah, you can of course always download the book at naturalfertilitybook.com. If you want to find out more about getting more of a formalized treatment plan with us, you can always email us at fertility@arcanum.ca. And I'll put up once more that the link for the scorecard. That's, as I said, that's your practical tool that's going to keep you on every one of the 8 steps, and making sure that you're just taking those simple actions, and moving more and more towards your goal. So as I say, we can leave this open for a couple minutes or so. But yeah, Danielle, any kind of summary or kind of final points, or things that are kind of shook out of all this for you that you think, oh yeah, and also this is important?
Yeah. Just, I think it's so important to really, for women to center themselves. So to really attempt to develop the habits and practices to ask the question, what do I need? And to get curious. Really, that is all it takes. Why do I have this symptom? What is it telling me? What am I ignoring about my body? And I think treatment with Heilkunst, with any of the practitioners at Arcanum, can be really useful, because we get into also the macro understanding of where disease comes from, and where our stress could be coming from. Because often we personalize it and we think that it's our fault. But there are some other factors at play that can be really useful to understand, and just join those pieces of the puzzle together. And I love geeking out about this. I love talking about this. And so I also want to just create a bridge and an open door system. So if anyone has questions, make sure to email us. We love your questions. Don't hesitate.
Exactly. Okay. Well, I will. Yeah. Thank you, Danielle. This has been awesome. This has been fun. Like, as I was telling you before we went live, that yeah, I love doing these live broadcasts on all the Heilkunst health topics, but I especially love it when it's 2 or more people, an actual dialogue, and we can bounce back and forth. And I kind of get stressed when it's just me being a talking head, just because it's too much to hold. It's like to be a one-man marching band, right? And holding all the pieces, plus being the technician and clicking the button. So thank you, Danielle. This was a real pleasure. And yeah, we will, everyone in TV land, will see you in about a month. We're going to be out on about a monthly schedule to go through all 8 chapters. And thank you all.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. Thank you, Jeff. Thanks, everyone.